everybody. Welcome back to the Contact Center KPI podcast. Today we have Jordan Fleming, CEO of smrtPhone. smrtPhone is one of our partners. Really excited about the integration between the two companies. And on a call that we had recently, we're kind of talking about different approaches to agent performance, agent training, how it impacts attrition, things like that. And Jordan offered to join us on the podcast and kind of dive into those things. So today we're going to be talking agent performance with Jordan Fleming. So Jordan, please say hi.
Hi, buddy. It's great to be here and excited to talk agent performance. It's complex, but actually very simple.
I would agree. Anytime you get humans involved in anything, it's complex and simple at the
Yeah.
same time. So, um, Jordan, you have your three steps to coaching and training. So, I kind of want to dive into the history of how this became a thing for you guys, first and foremost. So, kind of give us a little bit of backstory, kind of how this thing evolved into what it is today, kind of your belief around how coaching and training should be done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the benefits we have of being a phone system is we have so many people using the platform that you get to engage with a very wide variety of company types, sizes, business models, and how professional they are, how well they're actually developing some of their processes. And you know, another kind of side benefit is we've seen a real change over the years to a more outsourced first level sales. Whereas people used to build internal sales teams and have them all sitting at desks and and the things on the walls and all that. That's not how most people do first level sales anymore. They hire VA companies or individual VAs in other parts of the world, and in order to have a more cost effective first level sales, and of course usually they'll keep their higher level sales, the closers, inside. But that change has really necessitated a different approach to both technology and how they are training their teams, because they're no longer able to scrum before the start and do all those things. And that's really where, because that shift was made and more of our customers were going towards those outsourced solutions, they were starting to refine what worked for them for agent performance. And in the course of talking to customers, which I do still very, very regularly, I started to see some themes, and the one, and that themes of both, I would say, getting new agents off the ground, which is a challenge, but also keeping them up in the air once they are off the ground. And that, that's changed a lot with the ecosystem going to a more outsourced model, without question.
Yeah. Yeah. So so the kind of the market dynamics and kind of going overseas. I know Philippines, Indonesia are a lot of popular places for centers like that. So the market's kind of driven this need to rethink how folks are trained and coached, and overall kind of all of that rolls up into agent performance. Um, what are your three steps to coaching and training?
So the ones that I tell people, actually, I can't claim credit for them because they've been given to me by some of our customers. They've been kind of passed on. But what I've heard and what I've observed to work really well, and we actually use it ourselves internally for some of the coaching around customer success and support, is a three-step process, which is basically step one: I do, you listen. So I, the trainer, am going to do the calls and you're going to listen in on them. And that gives me a model. That gives me what is good. I don't just get to read it, or even, I get to listen into the live, because role plays are fine, but real conversations throw curveballs. And, there is no direct line. And so that I do, you listen gives real world. The second step is you do, and I'm going to coach. And For that to work, you're obviously going to need to have a technology, a phone system that has that capability to listen in to calls, to whisper. They call it whispering to agents, but that's really effective because it can. You've seen the model now. You get to take the test drive, but you got the person in the car with you, and they're giving them those pointers, those coaching bits, and building up their confidence. And then the third step is you do, I listen. So at that point, I'm letting you go. The leash is off. I'm going to be there to just make sure I'm happy with everything. At that point, you should have an agent that is capable of running a call the way you want them to do. And that I mean, obviously, it requires a technology aspect, but it's a really effective way of getting a virtual sales group, a virtual team trained up in an efficient manner.
Okay. I like that. So I do, you listen, you do, I coach, you do, I listen. I got those right. Okay.
Absolutely correct.
So let's sounds simple, right, in theory, but as kind of you alluded to, right, complexity is going to rear its ugly head at some point. Um, tactically, where do folks go wrong in trying to build out this three-step process? What are the gotchas people run into?
Yeah, first they try and do it too quickly.
Okay.
Everybody, I mean, one of the problems I think, and this is just my opinion, I can, but one of the problems with the notion of an outsourced resource, whether you're going to a larger company or you're searching Fiverr for people, um, one of the challenges that it is perceived as not very valuable. It is perceived as low cost. This is my cheap option. I don't have to spend a lot of money to do this. That can sometimes translate into I don't have to invest in the proper training because I'll just swap them out. They're commodities at that point. And that's not how good performers are groomed and trained. And that's not how you find good performers. You don't find good if you're lucky, someone's going to come in and just be amazing. And that's okay, great. That's that wonderful scenario, but that happens very rarely. Instead, you've got to find performance and you've got to build habit and build performance. And so I think one of the warning signs is people simply not investing the time to build that out properly. And also the second one, and this is going to sound weird, is conversations don't happen off scripts. It is all well and great to think that I can write a script that my agent can just read. Um, but that's not how conversations work. And conversations have curveballs. Conversations, you have to be able to listen and respond and navigate around a conversation to get where you want to go. One of the reasons why we're excited about the partnership with you guys is you're not script based, you're prompt based, you're subject based, you're key hits based. And I think one of the challenges that people do when they're thinking about training in this is they think I can just write a script, give them the script, train them on that script, and let them go. And there's those fundamental sales skills, active listening, questioning, proper questioning. Those are glossed over for the sake of quickness, of speed, of getting them up and running. And that leaves agents with no ability to understand this is a conversation with an outcome. All they see is the script.
So I almost hear that as like two different things, right? A misconception that just because it's cheaper, that you don't have to invest, and then a false expectation of what has to be invested in order for it to be successful. I look at those as almost two separate things, um, in terms of where folks can go wrong. And I mean, you see that all the time, even with highly paid individuals on the phone. It's like, here's your, your North American, $80,000, $90,000 a year sales rep. Here's your script. Go get them, Tiger. And it's like that's so
It's
I. it's kind of
it's
it's
shocking.
everywhere.
It's shocking. It's shocking. And the honest truth is, the fundamental the fundamentals of sales. I would say 90% of the sales game is listening to the person you're selling to.
100%.
And the best salespeople I've ever met, ask questions and listen and probe for information, which then they can use their brains to translate into methods of getting into where they want to lead things. And a script won't do that. And that's where just getting some of that fundamental training in place will pay off. Okay, it's an upfront cost. Okay, there's a time constraint in terms of how quickly you can get people up and running, but the payoff is going to be much larger.
Yeah, that's why I've always said introverts make the best salespeople because they ask good questions and then don't like to talk. They like to just listen. Um, where where do folks get this right? Like, what are some examples where this three-step approach leads to really good results that you've seen?
I mean, I think there's a couple parts of that. I think they get it right where they implement those three steps properly, right? Like they build that up, and like step one, two, three. It doesn't mean in one day you go through all three steps and you're done.
Yeah, yeah,
It would be wonderful if that's the truth. But where they get it right is when they realize that what we're doing is not teaching a trick. We're teaching a process that they can run through, that they can go through, and that we're teaching a thinking process for the agents. Um, so where they have this model and they've got a good understanding of the core, of how to impart and coach based around that first step. Let's just take the first step. I do, you listen. If you just simply rattle off and do 5 calls in a row and say, listen to me, okay, great. The agent's sitting there going, all right, I can't do any of this. But if you do a call and then break it down afterwards and say, tell me, let's talk a bit about how that call went. We did this. We could even listen to the recording again. You notice how when they were saying this, I pivoted here, or, so making sure that just because when I see success, it's because they've realized that this is a really good foundational way of building skill. It's not a fast way of getting people online.
yeah, absolutely. I think what you just said, I think, is such a key part of, hey, in this first step, I do, you listen, and then it's taking the time to dissect why I did what I did. Allow them to ask questions. Why did you, let's role play that. If they would have said this, I could have said this, right? So it's definitely not a quick like, hey, I'm gonna bust out 5 calls and then let's jump to step two. I mean, it could even probably be a couple day process of working through just, step one into step two. Is that a fair statement?
Of course it is. And if you think of, we've got some mutual people we work with who are in, for instance, a real estate game. Um, if I win an extra 2 deals a month, that's likely. If you just take someone who's doing the very basics of real estate investment and they're doing a wholesale deal, you're going to probably an extra two deals a month is going to probably bring you anywhere between 30 and $55,000.
Pays for
So,
itself real fast.
right, if you're telling me that you're not willing to invest a bit of time to build the fundamentals to make an extra 50 grand a month, you do not understand how a business operates.
I agree. I agree. It's always funny because we'll get on the phone with folks and they're like, yeah, we're okay, not handling these objections right all the time. Well, what happens when you do handle this objection right all the time? Oh, well, we win a deal. Okay, what is that deal worth? That's the next 20,000 gross profit. So you're okay with 20% of the time missing out on $20,000. Like, can you say that out loud to yourself one more time, please? Because I don't think you're gonna like those words coming out of your mouth. They're gonna taste pretty nasty. Um, so it's so true. Um, if someone's looking at a way of kind of like revamping their training program, maybe that, one of the folks listening to this is like, hey, this, I like this. The I do, you listen, you do, I coach, you do, I listen. Um, but maybe like their company is not thinking that this is a worthwhile endeavor to kind of rethink training. How do I go about maybe testing this out or are getting some upper level management buy-in into rethinking how we onboard and train, an overseas call center.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a fundamental problem because as long as you see an overseas call center as strictly a bottom line cash, as I'm spending less money, this is cheap. Every time I hear someone say, "Yeah, it's all right, they only cost me $6 an hour," I internally go, okay, because yeah, okay, they may be costing you $6 an hour, but you may be losing on $35,000 a month.
Yep.
So okay, congratulations on saving on only spending $6 an hour. But so there's got to be the fundamental business understanding that that recognizes sales is the lifeblood of our business. We need to make sure we perform properly, and it doesn't just happen at the closing end. The closers can close all day, but if they don't have the proper leads warmed up and passed over to them, you're either turning your very expensive closers into low-level hunters, in which case they're going to be pissed off and they're going to be frustrated and all that, or they're going to be sitting there going, "Why don't I have more leads that I can smash over the park?" And either of those things, from a business perspective, a core business perspective, is a ludicrous way of looking at your business.
Oh, and yet still so many people do.
Oh, 100%. Like that, but that is the challenge, and I think that is one of the challenges with particularly with the outsourced, that mentality of it's just a cheap resource, it's fine, and it's the
Right.
wrong way of looking at it. It can be a very cost effective, very very effective way of growing a certain sales arm, but you shouldn't think of it as just this like, well, I'll just pile a couple $100 in it and whatever. Who cares about close rates? You should.
So, I mean, you wouldn't say the same thing about like a Google ad campaign. You wouldn't say, hey, I'm okay dumping, thousands of dollars of this and I don't care about a conversion rate. Like you wouldn't take that mentality in any other part of your
Any
business.
other part of your business. You wouldn't take that mentality in any part of your business. You would not do that. There's no way you do that. So you shouldn't do it in the one that generates you the most income.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Well, Jordan, I appreciate you jumping on and maybe sharing some blunt, direct feedback. And hopefully our listeners took away some things today that they can at least go try. Again, to reiterate, it's pretty simple, right? I do, you listen, you do, I coach, you do, I listen. Fundamentally, again, sounds simple, but as we've kind of dove into this a little bit more, it gets a little bit more complex when you get into the how and the why, maybe selling up the idea of revamping training, stuff like that. So, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, Jordan, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
So our website's www.smartphone.io, and smartphone has no A in it, so it's smrtPhone. Obviously, I'm there. I've got a very large team that can help you if you're interested in that. Me personally, I mean, I'm available on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to give any sort of thoughts that I can. Always try and give some people some time. But I also encourage people to, this is an area that it's not a bad thing to look for external help. If you're going to invest in sales, it's not a bad thing to find a very good sales trainer or someone who can help build you this, because this is the investment for a win. This is not just, you're spending money to make money, so it is worth looking at that external resource that may be able to help you do it if you don't have that in house or you're not familiar how to do it the first time.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's crazy, right? Like you just because you build a sales team doesn't mean they're going to be able to sell it. So you have to invest in it. It's an investment every time. Well, I appreciate you joining today, Jordan. This has been awesome. Thank you for the quick, tactical, action items. Appreciate you joining us today.
I see you guys.
Cool. Bye.